1. Oh, no cards.
Here's my note cards.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and
Investigator Green, come to the chief's office. Investigator Green to the chief's office.
and you're ready.
All right. April 20th, 1999. Do you remember what happened on this day? On this same day, 10 years ago, the Columbine High School massacre occurred. 2 students killed 12 other students and 1 teacher, and injured 23 others. Shortly after that, they committed suicide. This tragedy will forever haunt our society. Our society is changing, and there are more violence reported today than ever before. Many of our young society has lost respect for the elders and are headed towards major trouble. Parenting styles have changed over the last couple of years, where corporal punishment is viewed as abuse. If used properly, it is a very effective discipline technique, and children respond appropriately when the parents remain in control. At the end of my speech, the audience will be persuaded not to rule out or vote against corporal punishment. They will vote for continuing to keep it legal. What is corporal punishment? Webster's dictionary defines corporal punishment as deliberate infliction of pain to someone as correction or punishment. Other words describe it as spanking, which parents use to punish their children. Corporal punishment has been around since the Middle Ages and has been documented since Bible times. The main problems is that spanking is a form of corporal punishment. Along with spanking, there are many violent actions that are also classified into corporal punishment as well. As for spanking children in the form of physical discipline, I am discussing just the spanking aspect. I'm not discussing the other. I'm not supporting the physical abuse part of it. Corporal punishment is misunderstood and is looked at by many as just strictly abuse. This can be true if taken to the extreme extent. Corporal punishment is like everything else when used in moderation. It is very proper and it is very educational. After all attempts have failed in discipline, physical discipline should be considered the next option. Spanking with an open hand is appropriate. When used in age appropriate, works very well. As for punching, kicking, slapping, or shaking, those are looked at as abuse. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services state most physical discipline does not rise to the level of abuse. Only 0.23% of children were identified as victims in 2001. This shows that abuse is not a significant result of physical discipline. Corporal punishment should be used in our schools and our society, and people should not look upon it as for abuse. Most importantly, it should be used in schools and by parents of children. Lack of respect in the school system has become a big issue today. Schools now have security systems, they have metal detectors, they have security cameras, and they have lockdowns during normal business hours to keep the children safe. Corporal punishment has continued to be used in some school districts. The parents are the ultimate control of deciding whether their children should receive corporal punishment or not. In most states, in some states, they allow corporal punishment. They just allow a permission slip or a sign to be formed. 21 states allow corporal punishment. As far as Texas, the staff can physically discipline a child without the parent's consent in the state of Texas, unless a specific school has a law against it or has regulations against the punishment. The Texas Juvenile Probation Commission states that a school district may adopt a policy authorizing corporal punishment without the permission of a parent. I can see there being a problem there because the parents don't have the ultimate say-so in it, and this should be incorporated for the parents to make the choice to receive the punishment. Past traditions of discipline in schools include how children have been raised. Basically, children have been raised many years with corporal punishment, with some physical discipline, and I think with times and the change, it seems like there seems to be more discipline, there seems to be more violence without this discipline. Children do not have respect for authorities. Hazing has started to occur more in schools. More school shootings have occurred. Kids carrying guns and knives to school. Kids ruling the households at younger ages. More kids are starting to use drugs and alcohol more frequently. They have too much freedom, children do. As the change in the times from old school to new school, we see a big change in discipline as well. As most of the older generation, physical discipline was the only type of discipline. As for spanking a child in the department store, nothing was ever thought about it in the old days. Now with this new tree hugger generation, spanking is considered abuse. As we see the changes, we also note the divorce rate and single parent rating is increasing. What do you think? Why do you think this is caused by? What about the increase in how to be a parent shows such as 9911 or Dr. Phil? Children on these shows are unruly and have no respect for anyone. With everything there has to be guidelines for corporal punishment. Spanking should be reserved to instances where non-compliance, persistence, or non-physical methods do not work appropriately, and they've attempted and they failed. Limitation of corporal punishment must be followed for the adult to maintain control, for the child to understand the consequences for his or her actions. It should be concluded or should be done in private in order to eliminate the chances to humiliate or embarrass a kid in public. It should be done, as, like I said, as a last resort after the timeouts and verbal warnings have not attempted to pass. The parent will explain to the child that all measures have been taken and that now he's going to have to refer to physical discipline. It should be no more severe than spanking. Objects such as this belt, a lot of times were used. As I was a kid, this was a pretty typical tool to be used. Well, the problem is sometimes, as you can see, this nice shiny belt buckle here sometimes strikes the skin too, and that could be a problem because that might leave a mark on a kid, which you can't do that anymore apparently. An open hand is definitely appropriate. It's due to age appropriate. Normally children under 2, they don't understand what they're being punished for. As children get into their teenage years, they start to understand the consequences more. At that age, the grounding doesn't work quite as well. They understand more if you take instead of spanking them, you can take their iPhone or their cell phones away, and that's more of a discipline, I guess, at that age. It needs to be age appropriate, the discipline. If corporal punishment were to ever become illegal, I'm afraid to see what will happen to our society. So if you have to vote, vote for corporal punishment.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.